Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Harmony Nice and today I am going to be doing a 6-month update on what it's been like to give up my smartphone. So I did a video about this. I don't think it was that long ago, but I wanted to do like a 6-month update because a lot has changed, and yeah, I do still have my little phone. I haven't gone back to a smartphone, but like a lot of interesting experiences have happened around giving up my smartphone. So I wanted to just kind of do a video on kind of the same sort of premise as last time, but this time what has happened over the last 6 months since I gave up my smartphone in August and it's now early February, but also like what I've changed or what I've noticed has changed as well. So kind of split it into 2 sections of what's happened and what I've noticed and everything like that. I'm really happy that so many of you guys responded so well to that video. I had so many messages of people like feeling exact same way. I had a lot of people being like, yeah, this is great, but like I really need my iPhone for this, I really need my iPhone for that. And you don't have to defend your honour when it comes to having an iPhone. This is a completely personal choice. It's more about setting boundaries with yourself when it comes to social media and iPhones and stuff like that, and just because this is one of the ways that I choose to set boundaries with myself when it comes to social media and a phone and stuff like that, and because this is the way that I prefer it, doesn't mean that this is the way that you have to prefer it, of a positive effect that it brings to my life and kind of bringing more positive effects into your life and opening a conversation about that sort of stuff. Obviously this is just a personal experience. Like I think something that people forget is that like a lot of what comes with these journeys, the relationship to social media, is all very personal, so I really can only speak from my personal experience. So your guys' personal experience may be completely different to what I have experienced over the last 6 months. So if you have not seen my first video, I would advise you guys to go and watch that video, because I kind of explain in that video why I decided to give up my smartphone and everything like that. But basically, in short, just as a quick recap, if you guys decide you don't want to watch that video or something, I gave up my smartphone because I read a book called How to Break Up With Your Phone. I had always been interested in giving up my smartphone. It really took me like a long time to actually decide to do it, but this book kind of like pushed me to looking in further to giving up my smartphone, and it pointed out some really scary facts about social media and smartphone usage and everything like that. And the book was more about creating boundaries with it, but I was already on like the verge of giving it up anyway, because I had such like an attachment to it that for me it felt like the right choice. And I still believe that it was the right choice, because I'm really happy with my scenario that I've got going on right now. And also I started to watch kind of documentaries about social media. So The Social Dilemma is a great documentary, and all those things kind of combined made me realise that I really needed to rethink my outlook on social media. Already had those feelings brewing because last May I had like a big thing where I realised that like a lot of what I was doing online wasn't right for me. Felt like I was always just kind of living like through aesthetics and really didn't know who I was, like my true self. I really didn't know myself anymore and really lost myself through social media. So obviously I already had those feelings sort of there. And also I heard like a lot of people, because I have dissociation, I suffer with it, and since I've given up my smartphone it's become a lot better, but I have also like done a lot of practices that kind of help with dissociation too, as well as going to therapy and stuff as well. So it's not just that cause, but I do definitely feel like I become more dissociated the more time I spend on social media. Little quick recap on why I decided to give up my smartphone, but if you'd like to hear the full version, it is on my channel. I'll link it down below so you guys can just watch it there. I'm just going to be talking now about like a timeline of the last 6 months, and I know my video wasn't made like straight after I decided to give up my phone, so like the two may merge a little bit. Like I may be saying some similar things to what I said in that previous video. So honestly, the first thing that I noticed when it came to like August, November time, so from August when I gave up my smartphone to sort of November, even until now, like especially within the last few months, massively, like more than ever, but that's kind of when I started to notice it. But the spare time that not having a smartphone gave me really helped my mental health. I've struggled a lot with happiness throughout like my life. I think for me, like using my smartphone was almost like a false escape for that. Like I was almost creating an existence for myself through my smartphone. I'd already started that change by the time, like I'd already been in like a 5 months change from that, so things had already gotten progressively like a lot better in that area of things. But what I noticed when I gave up my smartphone was I had an abundance of like time, which really helped my healing journey. It really helped me kind of start to look at myself a lot more and start to look at my behavior even more than I had before. Started to nurture new hobbies, and actually, instead of going on social media on my laptop or anything, like I was suddenly like, okay, you're doing this now, so you've kind of got to think of things that you've always wanted to do with your spare time and do them now. Like, you have that time now, and it's scary that you are like already maybe have that time. Like for me, I just always thought I was always busy, I never had any time. And again, this is all personal, I'm not saying you don't actually have time. I did start to nurture art like a lot more, because art is something that I've always been interested in, and I've always loved doing art. And I started doing art like back in May again. Like I started to paint a little bit more and do things like that a little bit more. But I really started to nurture art. Like I was suddenly more open to it, because for some reason before I'd always, like, I think when I detached my brain and stopped valuing social media so much, like, and stopped valuing that kind of side of my life so much, I actually started to do things to enjoy it, and it became really, really enjoyable. Give myself healthy hobbies instead of distractions. And lots of people said, well, isn't like everything you do a distraction technically? And I think the difference between having healthy distractions and having unhealthy distractions is that healthy distractions usually can contribute to your quality of life. Art can contribute to your creativity, it can make you feel empowered. It can also, it just helps your mental health so much. Like if you've ever read The Artist's Way, nurturing your creativity helps your mental health so much. And same with like reading. It feels so good to learn. Like I know people probably think that sounds really silly, but it does. Like education to me is so important, because it really like enlightens me. And that kind of stopped briefly over like December, and I would explain this to you in a minute. Came back again in January, and now I have come to like a whole new love of art, where I'm like trying loads of different art, and art is just fun to me. Again, like it's not something that I crave to put online. Like I picked up and put down and then picked back up some training that I'm doing for like job training. Started to kind of realize what I actually wanted to do with my life, and was kind of, the things that I was in denial about were really hard to ignore, which can be very hard and very shocking. But if this is the case, just be careful and monitor your feelings, you know, journal, make sure that you are keeping like a healthy mindset. Maybe seek professional help if that's an option for you. If not, seek help from just friends and family, which I know is easier said than done, but I'm just saying from my perspective, it made me face like a lot more of myself. Like it made me get to know myself a lot more. If you don't go on social media that much, you're not that big on it, there is stuff everywhere that is advertising things to you, like even on Google, news websites, even your email websites. Like I even noticed on my email that like there's always news things that come up that are talking about women's bodies. They're advertising things to you. There is advertisement everywhere that can affect your way of thinking subconsciously, so you have to be very careful and very mindful. Even though I'd already been facing myself a lot, it like pushed me to that next level. The next thing that happened, I just want to like speak to you guys about, that was very interesting. Okay, so I was struggling a lot from end of November to end of December sort of time. I was going through like my final phases of EMDR. It was very intense. I was just dealing with a lot of shit, and also at home back in my old house I was dealing with a lot too. There was just loads going on. I didn't have a second to think. I stopped meditating. I was just going into a bit of a spiral. During that time I did like an impulsive buy for an iPad, and I got an iPad. I was having like really trouble like adjusting to doing YouTube and stuff without having a smartphone, because I wasn't meditating. Like I honestly feel like grounding yourself helps you adjust to your change, and sometimes adjusting to change just takes you thinking about it for a little bit and being with yourself for a little bit and sinking into yourself to work out why you're struggling adjusting to the change. And I wanted like a distraction, and also it was a good thing to like take iPhone style pictures on. In my head I was dealing with like a lot of pressure, and I was like, okay, this is the way that my Instagram needs to look. Like I was falling into that spell of Instagram, of being like, you must have your Instagram looking perfect. It's got to be like a representation of you. I'm not like punishing myself for it though, because I'm glad it happened. But it was kind of an impulsive like moment purchase. And then I kind of started to use my iPad just like I did a smartphone. It became like a really easy distraction to have. I'd pick it up like a smartphone. I'd scroll through Instagram like I used to. I was using it all the time and the hours started to rack up. I understand how people in these scenarios are like, well, that's okay if you're going through it, like it's fine to distract yourself. I understand that, but actually what I have personally experienced with when I go through a lot is usually it helps a lot if I choose to do healthier things for myself. So instead of going on my iPad, if I sit and I read a book, it helps way more than just ignoring the problem. It helps me process these emotions so much more and so much better. So I do understand that, and I'm not like saying if you're going through a hard time you should like, you know, punish yourself for going on your phone or like anything like that. I don't think you should ever punish yourself. I think I forgot that that was something that I could do, and I also just kind of got caught up in, I was like, this isn't a smartphone, so it's fine. And then didn't set any boundaries with it. I found it just as addictive as I did a smartphone. I understand that some people may not. I understand that people use their iPads for like their jobs and things like that, but I found it just as addictive. Then when I started to set boundaries with it, I realised that I didn't need it anymore. So when I got into like a bit of a better mindset towards the end of December, I started to work out how I could do some YouTube stuff and some Instagram stuff on my computer as well. And then I was like, okay, well, I actually don't find myself using this iPad ever anymore. You know, I started to take my 35mm pictures and everything, which again, I'm going to be talking about Instagram quite a lot in this video. So I kind of reminded me how I really didn't need it, and also how addicted I was with it. As soon as I came out of that spell, I was like, shit, like what am I doing? I've just like fallen back into this routine again. So I did decide to get rid of it. I sold my iPad, and that was definitely the right choice for me, and I do not miss it nor need it at all. So towards like December to like January, so within like the last month, I started to kind of notice and realize that I needed to set boundaries with social media. I think a lot of people, when they go through this journey, like a lot of people I know who have like these type of phones, don't have social media. Some people do, just to kind of like look at things, or you know, they don't really post much on social media and everything like that. And obviously I didn't get rid of any social media because it's my job. Like Instagram is a part of how I direct you guys here, how I direct you guys to my book, how you guys interact with me. But even after I got rid of my iPad, I started to notice that I was still gravitating towards social media on my laptop, which is why I still kind of believe that social media is a huge part of what's wrong with a smartphone. Suddenly I was just falling into that trance again. The summer, when I had more stuff to do, it worked better because I was kind of quite busy a lot of the time, so I wasn't at home to go on my laptop a lot. Kind of after I spent some time off it kind of got less addicted to it. Like I didn't crave it as much, whereas I was still like, I was at home and I was going on it more, so I was craving it more. And I started to realize that I needed, that the addiction was still there. And because as humans we are addictive people, like we all have addictive personalities in some sort of way. Unfortunately, like what always feels good and what we always want isn't always the best like choice for us. You know, it's usually we need to focus on what we actually need and what is like serving our higher purpose, our higher selves, and serving our spirit and our soul. I started to kind of set boundaries with myself with social media a lot. And when I started to do that, my relationship with Instagram and YouTube changed a lot. I actually have gotten closer to YouTube and further away from Instagram. I started to say to myself, like, I'm just not gonna go on the morning, and I'm gonna wake up and have a mindful morning before I touch social media. And I'm gonna try to not contact people through Instagram, like my close friends through Instagram, and instead try to like email them and message them. Every time I found myself scrolling, I stopped. Like as soon as I realized, I just stopped and got off it. And I would also try to just not bother looking at people's stories unless they were my close friends. And then once I've looked at the people's that I wanted, I just got off it completely. So in a way, I started to kind of relearn how I was using social media. I started to kind of look at how I still valued social media in a strange way, and that I needed to change my relationship with stuff like that in order to make progression with this. I started to realize that I don't need to take like aesthetically pleasing iPhone pictures for it to be my Instagram. And every time I started to gravitate towards social media, I would ask myself why, what was going on during that time. And it was kind of like a good thing to note down and track, was if I was using social media as a distraction, why I was doing that, and whether there was something healthier that I could do, so I wasn't just distracting myself, whether there was some meditation that I could do or something that I could read instead. And every time I felt like fiddling with something or got a little bit anxious, I would sit and make myself a tea instead of going to social media or read a book or play my kalimba or something like that. It's like, this is one of the first things that I realized within like my spiritual journey is you can't ignore stuff, it's always going to be there, so you have to approach it and work through it. And I think that's why that book kind of tells you, you know what, it's great to have a smartphone for the benefits, because it is all about changing your relationship with it until you no longer hold your value based on social media and stuff, or hold your value within your phone, or like can't be anywhere without it, but you're just setting new boundaries with it. And also just like I started to trust my intuition. So whenever I felt like I was doing something that was not like serving me in a positive way, I would always stop myself and ask myself and be sure to just be mindful of the choices that I was making while I was on my laptop, and making sure that I wasn't like just mindlessly scrolling for ages to distract myself from something. So the thing that I've noticed like overall as well of like what's happened is how I have been connecting to everything so much more, especially within like the last month, and especially when I first gave up my phone. Everything that bit in the middle there was a bit like wonky. It made me actually realize like how quickly you can fall back into patterns like that, and how important mindfulness is when it comes to dealing with things that you know that you have or may have had issues with in the past. After I got rid of my iPad, I definitely felt like that wave of connection come back, and now like I'm again feeling really connected to everything. My meditations became way more connected. I really started to find them a lot easier. I really started to understand my emotions more. I again became way less anxious because my anxiety spiked. Obviously there was a lot going on, so like my anxiety could have spiked for lots of reasons, but when I got my iPad, my anxiety spiked loads. Again, I think boredom even helps you connect to things a lot more, because boredom for me has led me to explore myself more and also adventure more, like made me want to get out and do stuff more, think about like what's going on in my body a lot more as well, which has made me want to like exercise and like go for longer walks. Also just like trying new things and understanding that there is like so many different sides to us as people. Also my magic has become way more connected. That is something that I have found, is that it's easier for me to get in touch with my intentions and my intuition, because being mindful and like knowing myself a lot more, I have more time to like think about stuff to do with witchcraft and stuff as well, so there's like a lot more of that going on. And also it's really helped me connect to change, and change has always been something that I've struggled with quite a lot. It's definitely helped me like accept change in a lot more, and accept that things are like constantly flowing and changing, and that I don't need to be stuck like ever. I don't need to be stuck in an aesthetic, I don't need to be stuck into a brand, I don't need to be stuck inside myself, inside a job, inside of like anything. Like I don't need to be stuck inside social media, nothing I'm stuck in. Like I can change and flow, and it allowed me to kind of let change and flow in a lot more. So now I'm gonna move on to, because we're kind of already getting on to like the changes I've made / changes I've noticed. I'm just gonna do these all together because it, you know, just changes in general. I have noticed as a change is that I have, since giving up my smartphone, drifted from Instagram so much. It's funny because I never have ever been able to find a balance with Instagram, ever. Like I've never found it easy, I've never found it natural. When I did it as like a more of an artistic thing, or felt like I did it as more of an artistic thing, it still entrapped me a lot. And I think when I gave up my smartphone, I started to care a lot less about it, and I kind of tried to find a way to post on it naturally. But then like this, more and more I got like away from it, you know, especially during this month or so, the more and more I got away from it, the less that I cared about showing like an example of my life on there. Also like spur of the moment giving like advice, you know, on Instagram and stuff like that. I tried to do that for a bit and tried to make it more mindful, but then I always would find it weird to pair it with a picture that I would then have to go and take, and it was always just kind of like a hard process for me. When I was taking 35mm, I was like, okay, this is chill, like I'll just upload whenever. And then like I had like a few days of like mental anguish over Instagram, and was just like going like, I just can't do this anymore, like I find it too much. I sometimes don't even feel like I want to share like these personal pictures. I never know what to say on there. Like I always know what to say on YouTube, but I've never known what to say on Instagram. Like I've always found that really, really hard. And then I was like noticing how I was holding so much value still in Instagram. Like it mattered, like it would matter if I lost followers, like it would matter of all these things, which it just doesn't. And then this time I decided that I wasn't going to go back and just try to kind of whatever expectations that I have had in my head, and instead just kind of do what feels natural to me. And then I started to realize that I wanted to use Instagram in a way that served me and not me serving it, and it not having control over me. Using it for its purpose, which was to serve a purpose in my life, and not let it for some reason dictate value over me, or dictate value as it's like the only way to contact people. Like I haven't really worked out like what I'm gonna do with Instagram and how I'm gonna handle it, but like I see that there is purpose of how it can serve a purpose. I don't think it's healthy personally to be overly interested in what somebody is doing constantly and all of that like all the time. And I think in a way Instagram promotes that, and I'm not saying that it's wrong if you do have interest or anything like that. I see that there is, again, boundaries that need to be put up and understandings that need to be put up. I think it's quite easy to start living through Instagram. Relinquishing that control and understanding that it's a tool to serve me and not for me to serve it has definitely like helped me. Not having a phone has made it a lot harder to do Instagram, but it's also made me realise how that like I don't have to. Like, I don't have to do it in the way that I was doing it. Again, allowing that change in. There's no obligation to follow me on Instagram or anything like that. I don't expect people to stick around either, because obviously if you're there through aesthetically pleasing pictures and then I'd stop, you have every right to unfollow me. So I just decided to trust my instinct with it and understand that there was a reason why I was pulling back from Instagram so much, is because I never found that natural place with it, and how I naturally feel right with it is using it as a tool for me to kind of interact with you guys and get you guys like over to the YouTube or over to my books or whatever you want to do to kind of hear what I have to say. And what I need to say, I feel like I say it on YouTube, so it's good to direct people to that. What I'm saying is that you don't need to use Instagram for any like purpose other than what you need it for. Like, I know you may feel obliged to and stuff like that, and I'm not saying you might not. You might like literally just be like, no, fuck this, I never do that. So if you have a small business, because I understand it is good for small businesses, use it for your small business. If you use it to direct people to a place, I just want to change the way that I use it and use it for the purpose that serves me. I don't think I want to be like an influencer. I think I want to be somebody who's like a speaker, like on here, or in the future hopefully a healer. So like expect changes, because changes will happen, but it's from a good place. And thank you for supporting me through that if you like to. I know we've been on this for quite a while, but now I'm just going to talk about news consumption. And this is something that I've changed and that I've also noticed changes, that I think a lot of the people like who had questions about this was like, where do I get my news from? Because a lot of like Instagram is great for activism. So I think like there was lots of worries about people who like were concerned about not keeping up with like the issues that were going on in the world, especially as like smartphones have like the news app and Instagram and stuff like that, and Twitter, and obviously newspapers are trash. So what I've done to solve this issue for myself is I've started to subscribe to healthy sources and healthy websites that speak about these issues, you know, and have like newsletters that update me on these issues, and resources where I can read about these issues, again informing me of ways that I can help. Reading, again, is a way to keep up with stuff. Magazine subscriptions, there's loads of like online magazines that you can read and stuff through your laptop that may be able to provide you with information. Their sources into charities and foundations that may be able to provide you with like news updates. There's plenty of blogs that you can follow that deal with important issues that we should all be keeping up with, because I'm not saying like get off that and ignore that. No, you need to keep up with that, but actually it's kind of a more healthy way because it's coming directly from the source, or people getting in the way of the cause or anything like that in the middle. Like, you're literally just getting it from trusted sources, which you can research and look into, make sure they are trusted sources. And it just takes a little bit of work and not even that much work. Plenty of people through Instagram, if you don't want to have Instagram or a smartphone, that blogs you can follow, and downloading respectful browsers instead of using like the browsers that kind of do like algorithm based things to see what you're interested in. You can subscribe to browsers that respect your privacy, that give you general news. And there's so many of them that have like healthier views than like you might already use already, in a way that gets through to you enough and keeps you updated and also reminds you, you know, because a lot of the time it becomes so easy, like once you've seen something on Instagram, it becomes so easy to ignore it. Instead of doing that, like looking into actual things where it reminds you and doesn't keep you ignoring it, but instead keeps you updated and informed with what is going on. Moving on to the last few technical changes I wanted to speak to you about. So some things I've added over the last 6 months to kind of my technical changes is I've got like a little portable CD player. I've got a 35mm. I also have a digital camera. I've also started to use YouTube for music a lot more. I still use CDs quite a lot. I have a CD player, like I kind of just stole one from my parents' house that's like old and dusty. Spotify, you can also subscribe to Spotify as well and listen to that through your laptop still, so you don't need a phone to do things like that. For like guided meditation and stuff as well, I have got some guided meditation CDs. They're very easy to get hold of and they're also very cheap. They're like a couple of pounds, like secondhand CDs. When it comes to contacting people as well, I've started emailing my friends a lot more, which is kind of fun and nice because I feel like there's not like that instant response of like being able to get hold of like all the time, and instead you can approach it mindfully and take your time to reply. It's nice to kind of have longer conversations over email that are more meaningful, I feel like. So I've been looking into getting a house phone because that's something that I have noticed while moving into the house is my little sister especially, she has a crap phone, so we can't have like long conversations on there, so that I can speak to my little sister more. But other than that, what we do is we'll like Skype, you know, there's that as well over our laptops, or I will email her. There are still ways to kind of connect. Obviously you may want to look into getting maps, like actual physical maps if you go places quite a lot, and sat navs, they're very, very helpful when it comes to driving and stuff. You can also use WhatsApp on your laptop too, so that's also like another option to do that. But again, it's nicer because it doesn't feel like it's coming to you constantly and you can choose when to approach it. You're setting healthy boundaries with yourself and your friends too as well by saying, I need rest time, I'm not always readily available to be contacted constantly, which is okay. You know, I know people have like anxiety about emergencies and stuff, but that's why you have a phone like this, is because people can still contact you, but it just feels like a lot less pressure. It's not like instant, you know. Another thing that I've noticed is the preparation for things has to be upped a lot. For an example, maps, sat navs, bus times. You're gonna need to look up bus times if you get buses and stuff before you go. You need to bring like packets for those CDs, like CD slots. So you do need to be a bit more prepared, looking at the weather and understanding that too. I feel like it brings more presence and connection to everything again, and just like allowing things to be and not like expecting everything to kind of be served to you. You kind of have to search for it a little bit more. Finding numbers for things, like if you're going to need phone numbers and whatever, then you're going to need to keep them with you. That is pretty much everything that I've kind of experienced over the last 6 months. There's probably like a very, very long video, but hey ho. I just want to kind of give a few final thoughts to this. So giving up my smartphone has been one of the best things that I've ever done, mainly because it's helped me look inside myself a lot more and helped me understand my values a lot more, helped me understand what I don't value as well. How I now understand that when you're on Instagram, you're not somewhere else, you're still in that same room, you know. I also value connection a lot more, and how, yeah, it is more effort to connect to people, but it becomes more special and it becomes more mindful, and the people that you speak to, it becomes more pleasant. Like emailing people has been an awesome experience. I think it brings you more into reality of what's going on, and I'm going to continue with this journey. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you might have come on this journey with me, and hopefully you're still on it. If you're not, that's fine. Things change. Maybe you will be again one day, like I kind of did with my iPad. I love you all so much. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next video.